office hours. It's a nice time of the week.
Every Friday.
Yeah.
We've got such
the
good questions all week long, especially in support, that really I think help expose some of the very diverse ways you can use TradersPost. So I'm glad we have this opportunity to cover this stuff every week.
I think this week has been the most questions I've ever seen, which is great. Like, all really interesting ones, not the same ones again and again.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
All right. So what's been fun is the strategies that people are creating are becoming, I mean, I guess it's being surface. Some of them are very simple. Some of them are very simple. Some of them are super complex.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like, what I feel inside, I always want to ask, so what's the performance of your strategy? Like, that's always what's at the tip of my lips. What are you doing? And it really hit home when there was a support ticket where someone was asking, is there a market? Is TradersPost going to do a market for strategies? And I guess I would just want to put that question directly to you guys. Like, do you imagine, is that on the roadmap one day where we're going to see you log in and there's like a dashboard of strategies you can choose from?
Maybe. We're trying to navigate the regulatory and compliance arena for something like that. It's a little bit of a murky area to understand, but both FINRA and the SEC have relatively specific, but also relatively loose language around how that's supposed to work. And I think if we've looked at other competitors in the space that have attempted to head down that path, many of them have backed out and elected to use entirely different business models. The companies that have gone down that path and decided to open a marketplace end up registering as registered investment advisors. And I think that might have to be a path we take in order to support something like that.
And some brokers strictly disallow it. Schwab, I think, sort of does. They say you can't have copy trading. But I mean, if it's a strategy that many people are copying, arguably you could say that that's copy trading, even though, like, to a customer, copy trading is something different, but technically it's kind of the same thing. But there's a little bit of risk there of what the relationships would look like with the brokers if we did build a marketplace.
Yep.
So if you could wave your hand, though, let's say, magic wand, and there wasn't any of the legal issues, or the brokers are all fine with it, like, in your hearts, is that something that you care about?
Yeah, for sure. I think ultimately the issue at the moment is that many people join the platform without a very good sense of how to build a robust working strategy that will produce a consistent result. And so oftentimes they'll experiment with, sort of an idea that they just kind of randomly pull off the shelf, or something that hasn't really been fully baked, and it starts to lose money right away. And then they end up canceling because it's not performing at all. And even if you were to diversify that approach with 10 other strategies that all followed the same sort of loose, pulled an indicator off the shelf and just tried to trade this, well, all you've done is diversified into 10 different losing approaches. So that's not going to work. So it would be great to start to showcase more robust, fully baked ideas that are a combination of indicators along with confluence of other inputs, and additionally more portfolio management types of approaches, where we're diversifying into multiple names, maybe screening across those. So I think the marketplace would have to include some different styles for how to manage risk more than anything.
Great. All right. So you guys are, as you're saying, there's a wealth of information, there's a wealth of runway for that, on all kinds of different paths we can go down. So that's pretty cool. After watching some of the new Trading Bot session podcasts that are going to be going live, it's very fascinating to see even people who are professionals within the space still struggle with developing strategies. Well, struggle, like, that is the game.
Yeah.
And I like the idea that people, they come in and they realize, I'm not just going to pull off a strategy off the shelf and it's going to make me 100% return in 4 months, but no one else is doing that either. And so, or rather, that it's not as simple to do that, and that there is some that you get rewarded for the effort that you put into understanding what kind of markets and what kind of strategies you want to trade. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, Yeah, I totally agree.
And getting an alignment of expectations is always really important too. Some people come in with the wrong expectations, and then as a result, they are looking in the wrong place, I think, or the wrong types of strategies. Um, and people spend a lot of time there before they realize they need to start kind of looking elsewhere. And what I mean by that is usually higher time frame strategies. People like to go after the really short time frame initially, and then they realize that doesn't work too well, or it's a lot harder at least. And then they switch to higher time frames.
I just had a conversation with a potential lead, and they were doing this trading strategy on the 1 minute. For me, the combination of if I hear someone, they just started trading, they're young, and they want to trade the 1 minute, I do everything in my power to be like, how about you do that exact same strategy on the 1 hour on the daily? They go, no, but I need to do more trades. Like that's what's going to be successful. And I wish I had a counter of how much money I lost per common indicator, like how much I lost per RSI, per MACD, per moving averages, just to show people, hey, this is going to be you're going to be spending a lot of money learning that if it was that easy, everyone would be doing it.
It's true. It's true. And it's not like there's some, entirely separate universe on the lower time frames, right? If I'm trading the 1 minute chart and I want to see consistent results day after day after day, and my approach is working, and I'm not susceptible to the choppiness of the market, and I'm getting all these variables right, well, even if I had just zoomed out and just traded and bought in at the beginning of a trend and held that over multiple days, in all likelihood, unless you're using leverage on the daily, you probably would have experienced roughly the same result if you had held for a longer period of time. Instead of giving yourself all this headache of having to trade in, trade out, trade in, trade out, trade in, trade out every single day, you're just exposing yourself a little bit longer to the trend that you were already right about. And you've reduced your cost and turnover and, the likelihood of being wrong. That's the way I've always looked at it. Like, you get zoomed in too far, you have to dial in your ability to trade around noise. But if you zoom out, you'll still generally see the same trend and benefit from that trend without all the choppiness and increase in risk.
It's got to be all emotional, right? Like, people just don't want to hold stuff overnight. I think that's at least one of the main reasons I hear is they don't like holding overnight or holding through news or anything like that.
Yeah, when I hear that, I'm hearing that they just haven't measured the standard deviation of that particular asset. That means they're oversized again. They're like, they're either over leveraged, especially in futures. They have so much leverage that they can't even hold overnight because they wouldn't have enough margin requirement to hold it overnight. Or in stocks, they're just trying to scalp out these tiny little moments in the stock during the day. And they're not willing to take on the volatility that might occur, outside of that. But that volatility shows up if you read it on the daily chart. And if you're sizing that down to account for that, then I think you're a little bit safer.
On my side, it was that it wasn't fun to not have a lot of trades. It didn't make me feel good to just have a position and be right over time. It's like, okay, well, that's not why I got into the game. I go to the casino because I want the slot machine and the blackjacks, not thoughtful analysis. That was before. Now I've tempered my expectations.
I've heard that before, right? That profitable trading is supposed to be boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
And the hard part is doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Compounded interest over time. Snooze. All right. So I wanted to just touch on a couple of reminders. I thought it might be nice to have some videos for this. Actually, I'll just start off by saying that someone did mention in the Discord, is it possible? No, not that one. Someone was asking, is it possible to only have the office hour clips come out once per day as opposed to all at once? Look, you ask and I will follow. All right. I thought it would be useful to have it all at once. I wanted the dump of the entire office hours, but I'm perfectly fine for doing once a day or maybe twice a day. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we can certainly schedule them out, but I think because we have so many people subscribe to us now, they're getting bombarded with all these videos at once. Another option is we can publish them without having to signal that they've been published to our existing audience. I think a big part of why we push a lot of videos at once is because we're trying to capture a new audience on YouTube. People have never heard of us before, and we're just trying to capture those keywords. So to keep it polite to our subscribers, we can certainly try to keep that notification bell from ringing while we do this.
Perfect. All right, so there is a reminder. This comes up every once in a while, and that is the idea that in order to trade an asset class in TradersPost, you need to make sure that it is active in your account. So just as a reminder here, when you're logged into your dashboard, you want to make sure that if you go to your account information, click on asset classes, and then the asset class needs to be enabled here, or else you won't be able to do it. So I know there was an influx of people doing options, and one person was saying they couldn't trade it, and they needed to go ahead and activate this inside the back end. Just a reminder for people.
We have made some improvements there where when you go to enable a strategy with an asset class that you don't have enabled, it'll ask you to enable it at that point. So it's a little bit of a simpler process now.
Perfect. The other reminder was that I guess people are starting to trade options without necessarily knowing all the details about the options. I mean, look, I did the exact same thing. And they'll see an option at $2.50, and they think it's $2.50 that they're spending. But you're spending $2.50, or the price of the option, per share that option covers. And so if an options contract covers 100 shares, and so you're going to be spending $250 in order to buy that contract.
Yep.
So there was something that came up where someone was like, well, I thought I had enough in my account in order to purchase the option, and it's not working. And then the feedback was that, well, no, you actually didn't have the amount available.
Right.
That always has been an interesting UX for all brokers, that they show it in the price per contract, but then you don't see the total you pay until you're on the order form. It just gets me thinking if there's an opportunity there to change something in TradersPost to make it more clear.
I think it's kind of similar to futures contracts, though, because you're trading one contract, but they don't make it clear what the notional market value size of that contract is. So inherently,
or the margin required, right? I think that's like a hidden. You don't even see the margin required in a lot of cases until you're like on the final step.
TradeVate's probably the one exception to that. They show you your margin in real time in the top right-hand corner, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I agree. Many brokers kind of keep that obscured until you actually put the order through. But speaking in notional size is pretty rare, and that's the same for options. You're not speaking in the notional, sort of market value of that contract.
All right, so this next question comes from Wayne on Discord. It is a TradingView specific question, but I just want to mention it. Someone was asking, why would an alert show in my TradingView alerts log, but not on my chart? And so this can happen for multiple different reasons. I believe in this circumstance, they were using a Renko chart, so a non-standard chart. And so it's unreliable how your strategy is going to plot on non-standard charts. But you can also have situations where your strategy is repainting, and so that the alert should fire, but then when the strategy gets recalculated on the chart, it's not showing up. And you also have issues where someone will create an alert, but and then they'll modify their strategy, but they'll forget to update the alert. And so the alert is still firing based on the code that was duplicated on the TradingView cloud. And they're not like paying attention to that because they made one small modification and they thought it would propagate. So that can happen as well.
Yeah, the repainting, it didn't make a sense to me until I fully understood that in TradingView, a strategy is basically running in kind of two different contexts. You have one context where it's basically streaming the real-time live data from the exchanges, and the strategy is in real time calculating calculating everything as the data is coming in. And then the back test is basically running against the historical data, and you can have subtle differences between those contexts. So you could have a scenario where it shows up on the chart afterwards, but didn't trigger in real time, or the reverse. So whenever you see something like that or something inconsistent, it's like most of the time repainting.
Yeah, it's best to use the bar replay to go through and watch at least, 2 to 3 dozen trades to make sure that as you increment each step of the way, the alert for your trade doesn't show up and then suddenly disappear. That's the repainting process that we're talking about, where we expect that when alert triggers that it remains that way and it never disappears for any reason.
Does the bar replay do tick by tick now, or is it still rolled up?
Snapshots.
Okay.
It's still, it's not tick by tick, but it'll take, I think, 2 to 3 moments within that bar, and it does show up for a moment. Like as you advance to the next bar, you'll see that one slice of the data within that bar shows up, and then all of a sudden it finishes. So it's not like perfect, but it's giving you some intra-bar data.
Okay. And the live, like, forward running version is tick by tick, like it's as the data is coming in. Okay.
It's matches. Yeah.
They don't do any kind of roll ups in real time or anything.
No. Not that.
But that's where you get the benefit also with the deep back testing. I believe on I don't know if it's pro or premium plans. That's testing on the 1 minute data,
which is rolled up. It's still not tick by tick.
Yeah, it's still not. Yeah, exactly. But when I'm testing a strategy, let's say on a daily, and then maybe there's 3 snapshots for that candle, where it'll say that the entry happened or the exit happened will be different versus if I did a deep back testing, it might be more granular. So that's nuances of the TradingView platform.
There's one thing that is probably a good conversation to have that I don't fully understand either is if you're running, say you're running a strategy on the 1 minute chart and it's a super low volume ticker. If a 1 minute candle closes and there are no matches that come in after that candle closes, will that alert, like if you had something, say, to just trigger an alert on every minute, just hard coded every minute, if there were no matches, would it not trigger that alert until the next match comes in? Or like, what would be the behavior? Because
it'll only trigger on if you did something on bar close.
Right,
or
but
bar
does it
open.
consider it a close if there's no match at the next
bar?
What
if there are matches up until the 59th second, and then there are no matches until a minute and 15 seconds?
Yeah.
Will that alert come in on a minute and 15? Because I've seen some, I think it was Ezra Coper, one of the guy who he comments on our YouTube a lot. He was testing the delay between TradingView and TradersPost. And when he has alerts set up on tickers on a really low time frame, the alerts are delayed by quite a lot. But I've never experienced that, but I'm always running it on stuff like SPY, Qs, and he was running it on a crypto ticker. And I was wondering if that could potentially be caused by just low liquidity.
I would have to assume that it's event driven, so it's waiting for the match before it makes any calculations. I don't think the bars are time bound because they're, in many cases, especially in low liquidity crypto pairs, if there is no match, that bar doesn't even exist. There might be like 2-hour periods where the bar that jumps from one time to the next. So yeah, I would have to assume it's event driven, which would mean that the bar isn't considered closed until the next match of the next bar comes in.
Okay. That's good to know, because I think that I've seen that happen where people expect the alert to always trigger like exactly at the bar close, but it's delayed sometimes because literally there have been no matches. But also I think it can be delayed in other scenarios. Like if there were like a 3 or 4 second blip in the data feed coming into TradingView, that's another reason why it could come in slightly after, the minute that you expect it to come in.
Particularly if it's event driven. Yeah. I think that's my hunch, because we hear a whole lot of that, where if there's a delay in that way, there's a delay in the alert. So it's got to be event driven, match driven, if you will. There has to be a trade in order to trigger the logic of the next bar.
Right. And I think also another interesting thing to understand about how TradingView works is like the alerts and the webhook sending are 2 separate like queues. They're different lines. And like you have one system that's running the strategy and it's triggering these alerts and it records it in the alert log. But then the webhook sending goes into another queue after the alert actually triggered and went into the alert log. And I've seen scenarios where when TradingView's webhook queue gets backed up, you'll see many webhooks fire all at the same time that might have should have been sent, 2 or 3 seconds apart.
Right.
That leads into the next question, which was, is there ever a possibility where the alert shows up in the alert logs in TradingView, but that the actual signal doesn't get sent to TradersPost?
Yeah.
Now, it's rare, but it is possible to occur. And this is just to reiterate the idea that you're in this chain, right? You're in the signal chain, and every single point that happens could be a point of failure. And so it's one of those things you have to diagnose sometimes.
Yeah. And I think it's also one of those things where there are other nuanced possibilities as to why that happens, right? We mentioned this earlier at the beginning of the episode here, where sometimes the alert that you're running might not have been edited properly. So you might have a live alert that didn't have the webhook URL applied to it. You saw it show up on the chart, then you changed it to include the webhook URL, and you're waiting for the next alert at that point. So it's kind of hard to tell sometimes whether the webhook URL was actually attached to that alert, because the alert log on TradingView doesn't give you much detail. It just kind of shows you the contextual information about what fired. So in order to really determine, was there a webhook URL tied to this, and was that webhook URL delivered, you have to reach out to TradingView with that alert at that particular time and have their development team hunt it down to confirm that it actually went through the way you expected. And then to John's point, maybe it gets all clustered together with a bunch of other webhooks, and then it goes out an hour after you expect, or 15 minutes after you expected, which is obviously an unfortunate byproduct of such a large system with millions of people on it.
Another reason. Sorry, go ahead.
We've actually submitted that as a feature request to TradingView as well, to expose the webhook sending logs as a part of the alert log, so that you can see, did it actually trigger? Did TradingView have an issue? Was the webhook sending delayed relative to the alert log? All that kind of stuff.
Right.
This has been another reason why, I've moved towards a higher time frame trading, because you end up with more of those situations on the lower end, where I find that if I'm trading daily, I could tell when it should have fired or something like that, and I could always check that. And I'm like, oh, I missed the trade by 5 seconds or whatever.
It's more forgiving. You have more, if stuff goes wrong, or if it's delayed by a couple seconds, you have enough meat on the bone to kind of feed everyone. You feed yourself, you feed the exchange and the broker with their commissions and fees, and you're able to afford the cost of the slippage for the trade.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. I think of people who on the Tesla's moved up 70% in or whatever 80% in 70 days, and I think about the person who was who scalped 3 green days or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, if you just held it, you would have been so much better off.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on here. Someone's asking, does TradersPost have an option to close all trades before taking a new one?
We do not have that capability directly in TradersPost, but in TradingView, each strategy or each alert that's running on each ticker, you could configure those to close at a certain time or something like that. But as far as kind of coordinating all of them together, there's no way to do that, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but TradingView strategies aren't aware of each other across tickers. There's no way to merge them or anything.
It's one by one, so there's no sort of universe context where you have multiple symbols being traded at the same time.
I don't know if you guys have ever been in this situation. The only time I really find myself where I need to close all my positions right away is I've made a serious mistake. I've been trading in the wrong way, and I just go, I better get out of everything right now. Clearly, I'm correlated all to something, and it's all moving to zero, and I'm looking for that button just to close everything out of my portfolio. I've only ever done that really twice, and that's told me step away from my desk, stop trading, come back in a week, because this is not going well.
Yeah, I don't know if what the strategy is there to try to pull the plug on everything. If you're pulling it on everything, then you certainly load it up on a lot of high correlated assets, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the life of a crypto trader. All right. Someone was asking if trailing stops can be used on options.
They can, if the broker supports it. I think TradeStation supports it. Alpaca does not. They don't support advanced order types like trailing stops or bracket orders. But if the broker does support it, then TradersPost supports that functionality with options.
Perfect. All right. Well, that's all the questions we have for office hours today.
We got a couple questions in the chat if we want to cover
Yeah.
some of those.
Oh yeah, let's go ahead. Let's see here. Considering I'm still transitioning from forex to futures, I'm trying to run the same strategy I'm working on, but I have one concern. Let's see what the concern is. Since I'm new to this new flattening process, I see with futures you can't be in two opposite positions at the same time. For example, a buy at a certain price and a sell at the same price. So
That's true. Yeah. Is that allowed in forex? I didn't know. Every broker we integrate with doesn't allow box trades. You can do it across separate accounts,
Right.
but if you're long the SPY, for example, and you try to sell SPY short, you won't be able to do that.
And that's certainly the same with TradersPost. I do spread trades in this way, but it's always across different symbols that are highly correlated. So you can be long, let's say, the front contract of NQ and be short the second contract of NQ at the same time because they're separate symbols. But you can't really be both directions at the same time on the same symbol unless you're across two different accounts or two different brokers. Like I could be long NQ on TradeView and then short NQ on TradeStation.
okay, perfect. And Jonathan 19 says hi. So hey, Jonathan, nice to see you here.
Pretty sure that's Jonathan Stevens. Maybe he's one of our community ambassadors in Discord, always answering questions and helping customers. Pretty sure that's who it is. If not,
Yeah, the coincidence would be unbelievable.
My mind with that username keeps going to Jonet Hands 19.
Right.
What's up, Jonet Hands?
I assumed it was in the Discord. I thought it was John with a Smurf account trying to
nice.
answer in ways
Answering
he
his
couldn't
own
answer
questions.
my burner Discord account.
That's funny.
Right. Okay, perfect. All right. So thanks everyone for the questions. I love the crop this week. I'm pretty excited that you guys. I never asked you straight out if you about the marketplace of strategies. If that's something that could happen one day, I think that'd be pretty cool. But in the interim, as we've seen, the different features that exist within TradersPost really lends itself to all kinds of different strategy setups. So it's pretty exciting what the future will bring.
We've actually had versions of a marketplace that we've built, and we've been thinking about it since day one. I hope to be able to do it at some point, but there's a lot to work through to do it.
Agreed.
Excellent. All right, so we'll end it there. Wish you guys a great weekend, and we'll see you next Friday.
Happy trading, everyone.
See you guys.
Cheers.